As so many people have already stated, when I walked into Second Life for the first time, I was skeptical about its uses as an educational tool. The fact that so many people, including some of my students, consider Second Life a game makes me feel that there will be significant hurdles to jump over before average teachers will be able to view it as an additional tool in their educational workbox. In my opinion, those hurdles are worth jumping because of the substantial differences between Second Life and other MMOs. What impressed me the most about Second Life so far is the number of museums, including the Frank Lloyd Wright Museum, the Smithsonian's Latino Virtual Museum, and the International Spaceflight Museum, that exist, and the continually expanding nature of both the educational and museum presence in this virtual world. In my opinion, the fact that the Smithsonian has taken the time to create a virtual museum in Second Life is an indicator that A, Second Life is here to stay, and B, that it's only a matter of time before students across the country can participate in virtual tours of all of the Smithsonian museums that we as Marylanders often take for granted because they're only an hour drive away. As a teacher in Howard County, Maryland, the paperwork, policies, liabilities, and substitute coverage issues often make field trips a virtual impossibility for high school students. When I went through Howard County myself 15 years ago, I was never once offered a field trip opportunity. Now, as a teacher, I understand how complicated field trips are to run when 200 students might attend, when you need one teacher chaperone for every 20 students, and when the county refuses to pay for a substitute to cover your classes during field trips. Knowing this, I found the idea of virtual field trips particularly exciting, and a way to put the technology of Second Life into classrooms right now without doing so in a manner that is seen as interfering with the curriculum in order to show students technology. Sure, making prims and designing buildings is interesting, but it has little to do with English, history, chemistry, or American government. Sure, digital classrooms and uploading student work for a digital art gallery are part of a sound curriculum, but they also require a comfort and practice with the technology that not all teachers will feel comfortable with right away, and that lack of comfort may be all that it takes for a teacher to turn their back on the technology altogether. The ability to take students on walking tours of curricularly sound museums, however, may, instead, encourage teachers to spend a class or two classes teaching the technology and learning it for themselves, if only because it seems like a more passive and therefore less daunting way of including the technology. In my opinion, this facet of Second Life is far more likely to appeal to a wider audience of teachers, and in doing so will ensure that students are offered a wider range of virtual experiences to practice several of their 21st century skills. In my mind, this is the key to starting this technology in public schools, because a teacher that has success with Second Life will be more willing to use it in the comprehensive creation and creative practices that make it so popular with others. Walking through the museums requires little mastery of the program itself and a lot of potential reward to the teacher that chooses to try it. This, in my opinion, is the only way to convince teachers to use it to create their own islands, to house student work, to have students creating their work online. Personally, while I know that the students would likely be more willing to jump directly into this creation practice, and that those students may be more excited about that than a museum tour, whether or not the technology is used by a teacher a second time is largely determined by their perception of successes and failures while using it the first time. And I would think that more teachers would consider their first Second Life experience a success if that initial experience were more passive in nature. Are there downsides to this technology? Certainly. Are there privacy issues involved? Honestly, not any more than there are with the other technologies that we have discussed in this class. With students in a single computer lab and a teacher using Vision 6 software to watch what they are all doing, what students do while they are physically at school is likely far less of a concern than what they will do using that same software when they get home. Where the line is drawn as far as the teacher's responsibility for having introduced students to that software, I'm not sure. It's certainly a gray area that, in the least, would probably stir conversation in the community. On the whole, however, if 21st century learning is about anything, I believe that it's about allowing students access to resources that will help them learn, and of all the technologies we have visited so far, I feel that Second Life is the one that, hands down, offers the most bang for your buck. It's free, it's educational, it's a digital field trip, it's a digital classroom, it's a presentation medium, all wrapped into one. And if you want to use Teen Second Life and private islands for your classes, it's a secure area for students from across the county, region, or state to collaborate and share ideas. Personally, I would want Vision 6 software installed before I ran Second Life in my school. If your school is willing to spend the money it costs for Vision 6, which is without question expensive to license, with one teacher plus unlimited students in 1 to 2 classrooms coming in at about $896, the combination of the two softwares would eliminate most student behavior issues by allowing you to make sure they are only where they are supposed to be and allow for true digital field trips. In my mind, that combination is something to push for.